Hi, everybody. Welcome to English Digest. I'm Tom.
I'm Stephanie.
It's our news digest for the month of May. We're halfway through the month of May, heading towards summer. And today we're going to talk about getting around the city on the MRT. Okay,
Yeah.
So of course, when you go down to the platform, you might go down the stairs or you might go down the escalator. But what do you do when you come back off of the platform and go up the escalator? Do you stand on the right? Do you stand on the left? And that's what we're going to be talking about today. I guess the Taipei Metro wants people to stand on both sides of the escalator when they go up.
Which I don't. If my knee is feeling good, I'll actually walk or walk quickly up the left side because I like to get places. And I don't leave a lot of time for commuting back and forth. But yeah, the right side, there's usually a really long line, Tom. And I don't want to wait for that either. Sometimes I just take the stairs. That's another idea. We're going to talk more about this big debate. Remember, it's our all English unit. So we are going to be speaking only English. There's no Chinese teacher today. And we'll try to speak a little more clearly and slowly. Let's listen to this article now. The Taipei Metro recently issued a statement encouraging passengers to stand on both sides of escalators. This change aims to improve safety, streamline boarding, and maximize efficiency, replacing the long-standing and often debated practice of standing on one side. The shift also reflects growing concerns about balancing safety and operational effectiveness in increasingly crowded stations. Advocates for the new policy emphasize its benefits. First, escalators are not designed for walking, and moving on them poses safety risks, particularly in crowded stations. Studies from the London Underground demonstrate that standing on both sides can increase transport efficiency by 30% compared to standing on one side. Moreover, examples from other cities like Guangzhou reveal that the stand on the right practice causes significant wear, with 95% of the right side experiencing greater damage, raising long-term safety concerns. Despite these arguments, many oppose the policy, citing long-standing habits and cultural norms. Since the Taipei Metro's opening in 1996, the habit of standing on the right has become deeply ingrained among passengers, reinforced by campaigns that promoted leaving the left side clear for those in a hurry. In Japan, a similar practice of standing on one side originated from business people carrying goods, creating a norm that persists today. Critics argue that altering such entrenched habits will require considerable time and effort. Ultimately, safety should be the top priority. The Taipei Metro has opted for flexibility, refraining from banning walking on the left side while promoting mutual respect and safety. Through announcements and signage, the Taipei Metro urges passengers to stand on both sides to prevent accidents. Balancing safety, efficiency, and cultural habits remains a challenge, but prioritizing respect and collective well-being is a step toward fostering a safer commuting environment.
Okay, so it's time for us to discuss the article for today. The title is Taipei Metro Encourages Two-Sided Escalator Use. A metro basically is a rapid transit system that lots of cities around the world have. The Paris Metro, for example, or the Washington, D.C. Metro. I think they call it the Metro there. In Taipei, nobody really calls it the Metro. They call it the MRT, or Jieyun in Chinese. But the Taipei MRT, or the Taipei Metro, is trying to get people to stand on both sides of the escalator. Don't confuse the word escalator with elevator. My wife confuses those words all the time. And yes, indeed, they are similar. The escalator is the one with stairs, and the elevator is where you stand in a little box and it goes straight up and down.
Yeah, so the escalator's a moving staircase, and it just keeps going around and around and around unless it's broken, which it breaks down quite frequently in the on 科技大楼. In my MRT, my neighborhood MRT, they're always fixing it. And maybe it's because we all stand on the right side. Maybe it's because we need to be standing on both sides. Changing this habit, though, Tom, is going to be difficult. We've been using this pattern for so many years that it's kind of normal for us just to go to the right side and let those who are in a hurry, run up on the left side, trying to catch, the next train, or maybe they're trying to get out and catch a cab to go on to someplace else. But this is what the government wants us to do. They're trying to get us, encourage us, not force us, but encourage us to stand on both sides of the escalator in the future.
This happens every couple of years, and people don't stop doing this, so they'll probably do it again in another 2 or 3 years.
And then give up, and then do it again.
Yep, I've been in Taipei long enough to know that this was originally the rule when the metro first opened, when the Brown Line first opened. I was writing it back then, and the sign said, please stand to the right and let other people pass by. And then later on, they dropped that rule. No, you can stand on both sides of the escalator. It's not a rule anymore. But no one did. Everybody still stood on the right side because, hey, we got to let those faster people through. And if we just stand there in their way, they're going to get mad and there's going to be a conflict. So I'll just stand to the right. It's easier that way.
Yeah, I always thought it was impolite to be standing on the left side and not walking up because I was sure there was someone behind me that was mad, at me not getting up faster, or wanting to say, get over on the right side, lady. But this is what they want us to do. They want us to try to not walk on the escalator, but stand on the escalator and use both sides. So this change aims the goal of this change is to improve safety. We'll talk about how that works. Streamline boarding. If you streamline something, you speed up the process so that it just happens a lot more smoothly and quickly. You want to streamline boarding. Streamline boarding just refers to the people actually getting onto the escalator. I mentioned just a couple minutes ago how there are these long lines when you get off the MRT and you're trying to get to the escalator, and everybody's waiting to go up on the right side because they don't want to exercise and walk. But they want to streamline boarding and they want to maximize efficiency.
Right, to make it the most efficient as it can be. And again, streamlining means to make something go faster through air, basically, like the MRT, not the MRT. The high-speed rail is streamlined so it can go through the air quickly. So yes, they want to speed up the boarding and to make it as efficient as possible. And replacing the long-standing and often debated practice of standing on one side, it's still around and they want to replace it. They want people to stand on both sides of the escalator. It's a long-standing practice. It's been going on for many years. Not just in Taiwan, but in other countries around the world as well. It's just common sense to stand to one side and let other people pass.
Yeah.
But studies have been done. If people stand on both sides of the escalator, more people can move through the system.
So it says a shift is a change, right? So this change also reflects or shows growing concerns about balancing safety and operational effectiveness in increasingly crowded stations. We've got more and more people here and more people trying to use the MRT. It's really convenient and fast and very comfortable too. I'm enjoying the MRT stations that now have air conditioning, whereas before we didn't have a lot of air conditioning in some of the MRT stations. So yeah, it's they're trying to handle the increased amount of people. Operational effectiveness, I think, refers also to just getting as many people up and down as possible and also not having the escalators break down so much. It's a pain when the escalator breaks because then everybody has to use the stairs and not everybody wants to walk up all those flights of stairs.
Yeah, I got a bad knee, so I can't really do that. But sometimes I just want to get on the escalator and not wait in that long line and stand to the left and say, hey, there's no rule that says I have to keep on walking, but people still expect you to move on if you're standing on the left side. Again, that is a long-standing practice that's going to be very difficult to change. Now, here in the next paragraph, it says, advocates for the new policy emphasize its benefits. So these are advocates, people who support this new policy. They say, yes, it's very beneficial, even though it's kind of weird to just be standing there on the left when other people want to pass by. First, escalators are not designed for walking, and moving on them poses safety risks, particularly in crowded stations. So the escalators are not really designed for people to walk up them while they're moving, even though it makes you go faster, and maybe people think, wow, this is cool, I'm going up the escalator really fast, and I can get to my office earlier and go back and get online and start playing on my phone or whatever. And yes, indeed, this does pose safety risks because people are walking up those escalators. They may fall down and hit their knees on those sharp edges of the escalator, or they might be wearing Crocs, which will get caught to the side of the escalator or whatever. So there are some safety concerns regarding standing on one side of the escalator and then walking on the left.
Yeah, those Crocs that Tom mentioned are those ugly plastic shoes. I'm just going to say it. And I know some of you out there probably love your Crocs. They're good if you're a farmer and you step in the mud or the dirt because you can wash them off quickly. But boy, those are ugly. But they are convenient if you are not wanting to hurt your nice leather shoes or even your canvas shoes. But they can get stuck in the stairs, so be careful with those. Those pictures warning you about shoes getting stuck in the escalator are Crocs. They have a picture of them.
Crocs aren't as popular as they used to be, but I think they're still around.
Ugh, I don't like them.
I think they were very popular about 10 or 15 years ago or so.
They're great if you have a garden, I will confess, because they just wash off anything. You can just step in the dirtiest of dirty things and they'll come clean. I wanted to mention here, advocates for the new policy emphasize its benefits. Advocate is the person, the noun form of this word. If you use the verb form, it's advocate. You advocate for something. I like to advocate for the carnivore diet, which is just eating meat, which has helped my knee, Tom, so much because I used to not be able to walk stairs, and it's getting better. So advocate, and then if it's the noun, it's advocate. Sorry about that. It's crazy English pronunciation. Getting back to this, let's go to where Tom left off. We've got studies from the London Underground. We call it the Tube in London. If you take the MRT or their mass transportation, their subway underground is called the Tube, casually or affectionately. It is the London Underground. And they've demonstrated from these studies that standing on both sides can increase transport efficiency by 30% compared to standing on one side. And I think it's, as Tom mentioned to me before our program started, it's because all these people are waiting in line to ride on the right side, and all of this space on the left side isn't being used. So if we could get everybody just to use both spaces and just stand and not walk, we would actually get to our places faster. Maybe not for one individual who wants to just scramble up on the left side to catch a train or catch a cab or do something because they're in a hurry. But for the most part, generally speaking, if everybody would just stand on both sides, we could get to where we're going faster, and there would be more efficiency on these escalators.
I remember years ago I saw some guy in the uniform of the station. I think it was Zhongxiao Fuxing Station, going from the blue platform up to the brown platform.
Oh, yeah.
He stood there in front of all the people with his arms spread apart, trying to get everybody to stand on both sides of the escalator. And they were doing it, and I think more people were moving up the escalator. But I think it's still very difficult to find people to do that on every escalator at every station, so that's not practical.
Well, you're trying to retrain a brain that has been doing the same thing for decades, so it's not going to be easy.
Okay, so let's move on now to the next sentence here. It says, moreover, or in addition, also, examples from other cities like Guangzhou reveal that the stand on the right practice causes significant wear, with 95% of the right side experiencing greater damage, raising long-term safety concerns. I was in Guangzhou many years ago, and they had not built their metro system at that time, but now, of course, they have a very efficient metro system there. And they've been doing some studies there in Guangzhou, that really big city in southern China. If I say Guangzhou, I guess that does count as Chinese. We're supposed to be speaking only in English.
No, that's the name of the city.
Okay, so we can get away with that. And in any case here, yes, they have done some studies there in Guangzhou. And the results have revealed that standing on the right causes a lot of wear and tear on the escalator. And if the escalator breaks down, well, 95% of the problems are going to happen on the right side, probably because people are always standing over there. And if you see the escalators in Taipei broken down and you have to take the stairs, it's very likely that all those people standing on the right side caused this problem.
Tom used a really good idiom that we'll use quite frequently in America, and that's wear and tear. Wear and tear. And what happens is when we just use things normally, we're just living life, things break down, things get broken. I think about my apartment. I've lived there for a long time, and just through normal living, there's some wear and tear in my apartment that I need to fix. And it's not that, there was suddenly an accident or someone meant to cause harm or damage. It's just through normal activity, sometimes things break down. And yeah, there's a lot of wear and tear on these escalators. But I'm shocked to see that 95% of the right side experiences greater damage. But it makes sense. I would say maybe 70% because people are still using the left side. They're just walking up the left side normally.
Well, maybe the escalator manufacturers have to make the right side more heavy-duty, perhaps.
Maybe,
that might solve the problem, because I think this is going to be a hard habit for people to break. And speaking of breaks, we're going to take one right now. Please stay tuned. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everybody. Let's continue talking about two-sided escalator use, standing on the right side and the left side to move more people and to cause less damage to escalators, which again, as I said, is going to be a hard habit to break. So I guess we have these arguments here that say, yes, you should be standing on both sides, according to some studies in the London Underground and in Guangzhou. They say that standing on the right side is actually better. But despite these arguments, even though we have these facts for us to consider, many oppose the policy, citing long-standing habits and cultural norms. So lots of people are against this idea. Some people are in a hurry, they got to get to a business meeting, or they're going to be late for work or whatever. They got to go pick up their kid at the school or whatever. Who are we to be standing in their way? So lots of people oppose this policy. They think it's wrong.
Yeah, they cite long-standing habits and cultural norms. If you cite something, it just means you're referring to something as evidence or support for some sort of idea or statement that you have. When we write reports, we'll often have to cite our references, cite where we got the information from. So you're giving this particular reference credit for having that information that you're using. So they're citing or giving credit to these long-standing habits and cultural norms. They're saying, this is the reason. This is why. We've been doing the same thing forever, and you're asking us to change? Now, what's a cultural norm? A norm is something that people have been doing for so long, they're just in the habit of doing it. And it's taken for granted that that's the way it is, cultural norms. So it refers to, could be a standard in something, or it could be some sort of unwritten rule, where it's just a cultural norm. And that's definitely a cultural norm, to always stand on the right side and let people that are in a hurry go faster on the left.
I'm wondering about countries in which they drive on the left side of the road, like Malaysia or Japan.
I think that's a law.
Australia. Well, yeah, that's the law, but do they also stand on the left side of the escalator as well? I know in Japan, I guess in Tokyo they stand on the left, but in Osaka they stand on the right. So I guess you have to check out the cultural norms depending on where you are.
Well, I know in London, because they drive on the wrong side of the road, as we like to say in America. But they stand on the right side just like we do if you're going up an escalator.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, since the Taipei Metro's opening way back in 1996, I was here for that, the habit of standing on the right has become deeply ingrained among passengers, reinforced by campaigns that promoted leaving the left side clear for those in a hurry. So I do remember when the brown line opened up between Mujia and Zhongshan. Guozhong, was it? Or Gaozhong? I can't remember. That was the last stop at that time. I think it's Gaozhong. No, I think it's Guozhong. I think so.
Oh, really? Guozhong?
Because I read it backwards and I thought, oh my goodness, this train is going to the central mountains of China. I read it the wrong way. But in any case here, of course, it opened up in 1996, and they did have that policy. There were signs that said, please stand on the right and let faster passengers pass you on the left. So that was the policy at the beginning.
Oh, well, there you go. It's kind of the government's fault that we're doing what we do and that we have this really heavily ingrained habit of always standing on the right and letting those on the left go up quickly. So in Japan, a similar practice of standing on one side originated or began from business people carrying goods. They were carrying things in their hands, and that created a norm that persists today. Now, if something persists, it continues on and on. It hasn't ceased or stopped from happening. If you're very determined, you might have a very high goal that you've set, something that's really ambitious. And no matter how hard things get, you will persist in pursuing that dream you have. You don't want to give up and you don't want to quit.
Indeed. So that's going on nowadays. It's a hard habit to break. And critics argue that altering such entrenched habits will require considerable time and effort. So again, these are critics arguing against the policy of getting people to stand on both sides of the escalator. They argue, or they say in their arguments, that changing these habits will be difficult. It will take a lot of time and it will take a lot of effort. So again, a critic is somebody who opposes something. They're against something. And if you alter something, you change something. So they want to alter the policy. They want to change it. If you buy clothes, for example, or if somebody gives you clothes as a gift and you find out they are too big for you, well, you can have them altered. You can take them to a tailor or somebody like that, and they will change them so they fit you better.
Or maybe you run into an old friend and you haven't seen them for a long time, and later on you're talking to your family and you say, yeah, I ran into Susie. She hasn't altered one bit. She hasn't changed at all from the time I knew her previously. So we do in what Tom said is really correct, though. If you're talking about changing your clothes, maybe they're too long, too short, don't use modify. Don't use change, use alter. I need to have my pants altered or hemmed up or let out, things like that. That's really important. Some things we can have interchangeable verbs, right? And then other situations where you want to use the correct verb. And with clothing, getting changed is definitely altered. Moving on to the final paragraph, it says ultimately, safety should be the top priority. I think they have a saying here. We can't say any Chinese today, so I won't be saying it, but safety is number one in Taiwan. So the Taipei Metro has opted for flexibility, one of the things they've opted for. If you opt for something, you choose it. We don't say choose for something, but if you're going to use the verb opt, you have to use opt for. Yeah, he opted for something. I'm opting out. You can opt out, which just means you don't want to participate. But they have opted for things like flexibility. They want us to refrain from banning or they've refrained themselves, I think, from banning walking on the left side. While promoting mutual respect and safety, I think this is one of the problems. They don't want to offend anybody, Tom. But if they really want the policy to change, they just need to say, you have to just stand on the escalator from now on. But they are refraining from banning walking on the left side. So there are still opportunities for those of you who are in a hurry to go, excuse me, I need to hurry, and to run up on the left side. If you refrain from something, you kind of stop yourself from doing something.
Right. This reminds me of another problem when people are lining up to take the escalator. The people that are facing the escalator usually form a line, and the ones coming from the other direction have to go to the end of that line. But hey, they started from the same distance from the escalator. People should be alternating when they get on the escalator, but of course, habits are difficult to change. Now, moving on here, it says, through announcements and signage, or putting signs up to remind people of the policy, the Taipei Metro urges passengers to stand on both sides to prevent accidents. I have seen these signs, but at the same time, as I was reading the signs, people were mostly standing on the right side of the escalator. They just aren't going to change their habits.
Oh, I haven't seen the signs yet. I haven't noticed them. Maybe I wasn't paying attention. But I have thought to myself, just recently I was thinking, yeah, if you stand on the left, it's rude if you just stand there. You absolutely should be walking because someone might be in a hurry behind you. But they honestly don't want us walking. They want us to just stand. I'm going to be looking for the signs. I've missed the signage. Signage is fine. It just means a group of signs in a group. It's a collection of signs. If you have one sign, just use sign. And of course, sign is countable. So signs. Signage is more formal, just so you know.
And balancing safety, efficiency, and cultural habits remains a challenge, but prioritizing respect and collective well-being is a step toward fostering a safer commuting environment. So again, that's what they want to do. It's a challenge, though, to make things more efficient, to make them safer. But again, it takes the work of everybody. It needs to have a collective effort. It's a collective, which means it affects everybody. A community effort, basically. And yes, indeed, it fosters a safer commuting environment, and it will move people faster. Hopefully, this habit will change. But again, I kind of doubt it. But I guess we should be optimistic.
I've seen real change here in Taiwan, so I wouldn't be surprised if it does change. It depends on how often they remind us of this new policy, and maybe they have more people that they employ at the MRT to stand there with their arms out, like you said, you saw a gentleman doing. When I first got to Taiwan, the traffic laws were a little loose, shall I say, and it could be a little scary, even at intersections, waiting to see who was going to do what. And when I came back to Taiwan after 30 years, I just remember thinking, wow, it's so organized and everything is so streamlined and everybody's obeying the rules. So things can change. This is something, though, that, as Tom said, has been ingrained in our cultural norms and our habits. And so we're really going to have to focus on it to get it to change in a few years. It depends, if people are paying attention, maybe they'll have more cute ads or more fun signs, or maybe reward people by cooperating and just standing on the escalators. I'm going to have to rethink this, though, myself. I'm going to try. I'm going to give it a shot and see if I feel rude by just standing on the left side. That's how I usually feel. I feel impelled or compelled to keep walking in case someone's behind me. But I'm going to give it a try. Are you going to try?
Well, actually, what I do sometimes is I do walk on the left side, but I walk rather slowly. So you can't say I'm, holding people back too much. I'm not going to stand there still because people might get angry at me. Who do you think you are standing there like that? I'm in a big hurry. Get out of the way. But I kind of move slowly. And if somebody says, can you hurry? I'll say, well, I got a bad knee, so I need to walk slowly. And they might say, well, then you should just wait in the other line then. But I'm not going to do that. So in any case, I expect certain kinds of conflicts to happen. I should mention that I am glad that in the MRT, they do have the lines painted on the platform to people for people to wait in line or to queue up. Because in the old days, before the days of the MRT, if a bus came, there was no line. Okay, the first person who got to the door was the first person who got on the bus.
And that's still how it is in China.
In China, indeed, yes. And probably in other parts of the world as well. But yes, indeed, the MRT certainly seems to be a modern kind of device or a modern infrastructure in the city. And hopefully the escalator problem will be resolved soon.
We hope. So to finish this off, we're going to want to balance safety, efficiency, and cultural habits. Although these remain a challenge, they're going to try to prioritize respect and collective well-being. And this is how they're going to try and correct this situation so that we have more safety and efficiency on the MRT. That's all the time we have, guys. Thanks for joining us for our News Digest and All English unit. For English Digest, I'm Stephanie.
I am Tom. Goodbye.
Bye.